Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control Podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by senior on the Towson women's lacrosse team, Shannon Sullivan. In her lacrosse career, Shannon has played in 51 games so far and has scored 3 goals, had 100 ground balls, 56 caused turnovers, and 66 draw controls. This allowed Shannon to be a CAA All-Rookie selection and lead the Tigers and rank third in the CAA in caused turnovers during the 2024 season. Before college, Shannon helped our high school team reach the 2021 conference finals and was named to the All-County team and named the 2021 Most Outstanding Girls Athlete at Wantagh High School and the MVP of your team as well that season. We're super excited to have her on the podcast today. So, welcome to the Draw Control Podcast, Shannon. And how is everything going?
Thank you. I'm great. Just finished practice, so I'm excited to get started.
Nice, nice. Well, hopefully practice was good for yourself today. How is fall ball going for yourself and for your team so far this semester?
It's really good. We made changes from last year, so we played every weekend of October, and instead of doing like the play days, now this year we're doing like full length games, which is like a really cool experience. So like I think it translates more into the spring because you get to like experience full games now. So I've really liked the changes we've made. It's going well.
Yeah, do you think that's going to help your team, I guess, make that transition to the spring season, especially with some of the new players that your team has to build up that chemistry in a more of a game-like setting?
Yeah, I think it'll help us a lot, just like you said, for the younger girls who haven't gotten to experience like that, like the nervousness before you play and all that stuff. It's different when you're going out into a real game rather than like just going for a play day. So I think having that, mimicking that feeling now is definitely going to help, like have a nice familiarity, like when we get to the spring. So yeah.
May I ask what's the differences between a play day versus an actual scrimmage?
So a lot of like fall teams or like in the fall, they do like a running clock or just not like stop and go or like we'll do just different like it's a lot more fast paced and like a lot more subbing and all that so that I would say was is the difference. And then a real game is like you play full 15-minute quarters and like instead of doing running clock. So it's definitely a lot longer and a lot more physically demanding.
Yeah. How many subbing goes on in those scrimmages that you've been doing? Because I know a lot of teams like to get their freshmen out to get that experience. The saying goes, freshman is for the fall and spring is for the seniors. So I'm curious how that's sort of worked out for your team this semester.
Yeah, it's kind of the same getting everyone in, everyone gets reps. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
good.
Well, what are some things that you've been working on this summer and in the fall to get ready for next season?
I think this summer I did a lot of like just lifting and conditioning. I'm from Long Island, but I lived down here this summer. So I got to use the facilities and everything, which was really cool. Just to, like stay in the loop and everything. And then I think in the fall, just like realizing that I'm on my fourth year and things will start to get a little like my body isn't as not quick, but like I had to do a lot more recovery and stuff. So I think just like adjusting to that, like getting to the field house earlier and like making sure I'm really taking care of my body and like eating well is definitely what I've been working on the most this fall.
Now, speaking of the summer, how was your summer? Did you do anything interesting, whether it was lacrosse related or not?
Yeah, I had an internship this summer for Morgan Stanley in Baltimore. So I did that. Like it was 10 weeks long. So I lived in Towson with a few of my roommates too. And I did that, which is a really cool experience. I learned a lot doing like that finance and all that stuff, getting some real world experience because I'm going to graduate soon. And then something fun I did was me and so there's five seniors. So me and the rest of my class and then a few of my friends from home, we went to Hilton Head as like just like a girls' trip, which was really fun to like kick off senior year.
Yeah,
So
that does sound like a lot of fun. Now,
yeah.
obviously, being a senior this year, what type of leadership do you want to bring towards the team? Would you consider yourself more of a vocal leader or lead by example type of player?
I think it's like a mix of both. I think I definitely really like to lead by example because like I think that that's just like the most important thing. Like people will follow or like look up to you and like follow what you do. So if you're doing like everything you can to like contribute to our goal of like becoming CAA champions and like doing all the extra work, I think that people will follow along. And I think like always bringing people with you, like if you're going to do film or extra work, like make sure you're like reaching out to everyone and like open up the invite to everyone else. And I think that's like definitely the like a great way to be a leader. And then obviously working on becoming more vocal, especially like going into my senior year. I've been like really trying to work on that and just like, trying to speak up and be a leader. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's transition now and talk about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So, like I mentioned in the introduction, you're from Wantagh, New York. So, talk about growing up there and how'd you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah, lacrosse is really big in on Long Island, especially in Wantagh. I've got to play with a lot of like great players throughout my years there. I honestly don't even remember like the first time I picked up a lacrosse stick because I was so young. It was just like that was just what I did. Like that's what you did when you lived there. Um, and I just ever since I just never stopped playing. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, growing up, who were some of your favorite lacrosse players and teams that you like to watch?
I think that I definitely like to watch UNC. I actually have like a little story because when I was in seventh grade, I had was at like a UNC clinic. They came up to Long Island and like ran something, and I broke my leg there at the clinic. So I had to get like wheeled out, and then they ended up sending me like a whole care package of like UNC gear, and I thought it was so cool because like I was like, oh, like it was like a signed poster and everything. So I guess I always had like a connection to them in a way. So I was like always a fan and I liked watching them. And then I looked up to like Marie McCool as a midfielder and stuff. So all that. And yeah.
Well, it sucks that you broke your leg there, but at least you got like a cool sign out of it. So I guess that's one positive you can take away from that.
Yeah.
Now, doing research on yourself, I saw that your dad also played lacrosse in college for New Haven. So what was it like having another member of your family play lacrosse, and how did he sort of help you in your lacrosse career?
Yeah, he was like the dad that was like always the coach of the team. And yeah, so it was like nice to have him as an athlete and like help me. But obviously, like you want to set boundaries between like a parent and a coach. So like just going through that and working through that, obviously. And I mean, still to this day, like I'll like bounce ideas off for him or we'll just like talk about it and stuff. So yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Is he still trying to coach you now, like in college, like even after games, or is he more trying to stay out of that part?
I think he's a fan now. Like he's yeah.
I feel like it's probably more nerve-wracking for him to be a fan than a coach, just because he can't control what goes on in the field with your team.
Yeah.
Now, before college, you played for your high school at Wantagh. So talk about your lacrosse experience there, what you took away from it, and what's like your favorite memory from your Wantagh lacrosse days.
Yeah, like I said before, it's really cool. Like it made me the player I am today just because like you're playing with such good talent and that just like always makes you better. Um, and then I went through I tore my ACL my freshman year. I had just made like the got pulled up to varsity and literally the next day I tore my ACL. So I think that was like I it's like way harder than you think it is. Like a lot of girls like go through it, but I think it's more just like being off the field and like but it makes you realize how much you miss it and how much you really do like it. But I think going through an injury like that really like makes you grateful like that you get to play the sport, but also it does at least for me, it took me a really long time after like I recovered to like get my confidence back and like become like the player that I was before. So I think just like bringing awareness to like mental health in that aspect, like especially people are injured, like it's so hard going through that. And I think that um like I guess I kind of got off topic, but yeah, so when I was at Wantagh, I went through that and then like bounced back after sophomore, junior year. But it was really cool just like getting to play with all those girls. Like I played with Maddie Taylor, who was I think she was nominated for the Tourton, which is really cool. And then a few other girls, like just getting to play with them and learning from them and all that stuff is really cool. So yeah, I mean I loved it. It was a great experience.
And you also play club lacrosse for Elevate. How did that experience sort of help prepare you for college lacrosse?
Yeah, same kind of concept. Playing club lacrosse on Long Island is so competitive and just like playing with a bunch of other girls who were like also going D1 and getting to get that experience. Like I still love and I made so many good friends, lifelong friends from club lacrosse that I get to watch like do well on their teams and everything and obviously stay in touch to this day. So yeah, it was it's awesome experience. Yeah.
Was your entire Elevate team committed to college? Like, I'm just curious, like, what percentage of the team like ends up going to play college lacrosse, whether it's D1, D2, or D3?
I think a good chunk, I would say like probably at least 75%,
Oh,
I would.
wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
That definitely makes that transition easier because you basically, once you get to college, you sort of have an idea of what it's like to play with other Division One players since you have that experience with that team.
Yeah, it definitely helps.
Now, one thing I noticed about yourself when doing research for this interview is you also played volleyball growing up. I'm just curious, how did that sport sort of help you in lacrosse?
Yeah, I think that it's usually like people who play lacrosse or like they'll play like basketball or field hockey or soccer. Those are like the main sports I would say. I mean, obviously some girls play volleyball, but they're very different sports, but I think the thing I took away the most from volleyball that like translates to lacrosse, especially on defense, is like reacting like in volleyball when the ball gets served over, like you can't let it hit the ground, like you have to react to it. And I think just like adapting to the play as it goes on, as the ball's in the air is like kind of the same concept on defense. Like you need to adapt to like the other girls you're playing around with and like react to your attacker. And like I think that that's something that like really translated for me from volleyball.
Now, let's talk about your recruiting process to Towson. What made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at?
I really when I visited Towson, I really liked like the culture that they built there. And I loved the campus is beautiful. And I honestly when I visited first, I didn't really get like I didn't see the campus that much. I saw like the athletics side of it. But when I like got to Towson, I was like, I really like this campus. Like I'm so happy I'm here. Um but yeah, I think that the most important part for me would be like the girls you're playing with and the culture and all that. That was like really important to me. And obviously, it's a really good academic school, and it just every year it keeps getting better. They keep having construction here, building new things. So I think that like a school that's always improving things, like that's a good sign of like a good school you want to be at. So
Now, obviously, as a freshman, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse?
I think probably just like learning that next level of lacrosse and how much goes into it. Just like all like it's a lot of work. Like it's a lot of hours. Like all the extra work. Like you want to be like up to date with everything that's going on, especially as a freshman because you do have a lot to learn. So I think just like putting in the time and effort and all that and was like a big adjustment for me. But I think that like as you get to go, like it keeps going on, you really adjust to it and get a groove of things and get a good schedule going. And then once you do that, like it's pretty good. So
Now, you get to play in the CAA. What's that conference like from a player's perspective and just the competition that you face each game?
yeah, it's really a really competitive conference. I love CAA play. It's super fun. Um, we have close games with a lot of them every year. Drexel's a big player there. We've been playing them since my freshman year, and then Stony Brook joined few last year or the year before. So getting to play them is like awesome. And then obviously like Hofstra and Delaware, there's like so much competition in there. It's super fun and competitive.
Now, obviously, as a student athlete, you have to balance the athlete part and the student part. So my question is, how have you learned to balance both lacrosse and academics at such a high level?
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. And you learn what works for you and what doesn't. But I think for me in high school, I was always in like a lot of hard classes and I always had sports going on. So it was actually like not that it was like it took an adjustment, but it wasn't like horrible. But I think just like having good time management and like looking ahead at your tasks like months ahead like at your syllabi that you get at school and like making like a schedule of like when your due dates are I think is just like really important and then like every week I just have like a schedule like on my laptop of just like things I need to get done and that's definitely like helped me stay on top of everything and I like recently discovered this app. It's Microsoft To Do and it's just like a to-do list where you can like check things off. I've been using it a lot, so that helps me too.
Nice, nice. I use the Notes app the most for to-do stuff because you can make a checklist off that. So I do
Yeah,
it for like not just to-do list, but like if I have errands to run that day, I can just make that quick on my phone. So, but I definitely got to try it out for my computer since I do some schoolwork there as well.
yeah, really, it really helps just having a list you can check off. It makes works wonders.
It's one of the best, most satisfying feelings ever when you check it off. I don't know why. It's just like, all
No,
right,
I
that's done.
agree.
It's something about it for some reason for me.
Yeah.
Now, obviously you're a senior this year, so I did want to ask you, what do you think's been the biggest improvement you've made to your game since your freshman year?
I think that, well, when I came in as a freshman, I was a midfielder. And then over time, it was almost springtime, I think. Like it was preseason, and I just like was finding my footing more on defense. So I was like, I'm just gonna stop switching my pennies. So then I really love defense too. So that's kind of like how I became a defender here. Um, and I think that defense wise, the biggest improvement I've made, like, well, the first thing would be self-confidence. I think just like having like I just have confidence in myself. Like I like to give myself positive self-talk and like be like, you're fast, like you can keep up with her. Like I think that's an improvement I've made and like just being confident. But also like tactically, I think the biggest improvement I've made was like being much more aggressive and like I've worked last year I worked really hard on like having good checks but like not losing body position. So like I just make sure that when I'm playing defense and like during practice I would like before practice think about like, oh, today I'm gonna like really work on my checking. And like I would do that every day all fall of last year and it like just grew my game so much, like being able to cause those turnovers and like get those ground balls and stuff is like creating more opportunities for the offense. So I think that's definitely the biggest improvement I've made since freshman year.
Now, what's been your favorite lacrosse memory with Towson so far?
My sophomore year, we played during our spring break, we flew to Nashville to play Vanderbilt. And we ended up winning that game in overtime, which was so fun. And then we just got to see like I think that time we toured the Titan Stadium too. So just being there was a really fun memory and just like more team bonding. And then in the same spring break, we ended up actually the next like a few days later we played at Hofstra away. And then we went to an Islanders game with the team. So like that whole week was just really fun and just like grew us that much closer as a team. So yeah.
Yeah, must have been a homecoming for you too, going back to Long Island with the rest of your teammates.
Yeah, my freshman year we actually went to my house. We
That's
did like
that's very
pizza.
close to home for you.
Yeah.
That's gotta be cool though, to have the whole team at your house. Like that's probably something you never expected.
Yeah, as a freshman, it was also supposed to be a surprise. Like they were just gonna pull up to my house.
Oh,
And
okay.
but it wasn't a surprise because someone spoiled it. But yeah, it was so fun. We got like a pizza truck, had some Long Island pizza, and it was like really weird having everyone's like, "Oh, this is your house." Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, especially like having your coach like at your house too. Like it's
Yeah.
definitely something like you don't expect, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, obviously heading into next year, what are your team's goals and expectations?
Yeah, so we want to be the best Towson lacrosse team there's ever been, and also bring home a CAA championship because that's super important to us, and that those are definitely our goals. And it's going to take a lot of hard work and discipline, but I think we're going to get there.
Yeah. And one other question I want to ask you was, and you talked about this a little bit when you sort of talked about the biggest improvement you made to your game, but how do you work on the defensive side in your game as a lacrosse player on practice every day?
I think it's a lot more mental than you think it is. Like making sure that like when you step on the field for practice every day, like making sure you're focused up here and not just like warmed up and ready to go. Which like it's still hard to this day. Like I sometimes will catch myself like losing focus and I have to like reset. Um, so I think just making sure you're focused and then also especially as like a younger player, if you're a freshman or sophomore, I think always asking questions. Like, don't be afraid to like, even if it's not to your coach, but to like an upperclassman, I think that's a great way to just like keep learning. Also like when I was like freshman, sophomore, I would always just like I still do it, but always watching like my teammates and just learning from them and like bouncing ideas off of them. Watching other college games, really cool. Like last year I would watch Sydney Scales on BC a lot and just like try and mirror her and like look at other type of styles of defense and try and pick up things from that. And yeah, I think those are like definitely the things that helped me the most work
Hmm.
on the defensive part of the game.
Which teammate do you ask the most questions to now, I guess, because now you're a senior?
I think I mean I still like the other defense, like girls on defense, I ask all the time, but also like some attackers, I'll be like, oh, like what could I do better? Or like stuff like that.
Yeah.
That helps me.
So let's move on to a segment I like to call the non-lacrosse segment, where I ask you some non-lacrosse questions to get to know you a little bit more off the field. I'll answer some of these as well to make it more interesting for the audience. So first one is if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Um, I guess I would say maybe Scarlett Johansson as a brunette because I like the Avengers movies and stuff, and I think she's just like a badass in the movie in the role she plays. So I would probably say her.
Yeah. I don't know any celebrity that looks like me, to be honest with you. So I don't
Same.
know like who I would pick. I would say like Ryan Gosling because it would just be funny. And that's what I want people to laugh. Like, why is Ryan Gosling playing this guy? They look nothing alike. So that would be sort of what I would pick, something to make the audience laugh.
It's a good one.
Now, what has been the most interesting thing you've read or seen recently?
Me and my roommates watched the Menendez brothers new thing on Netflix, Monsters, and that was just like I never really into that type of like stuff, but I was really intrigued and like I thought it was really interesting. So yeah.
I've heard some people talk about that. I haven't gotten the chance to watch the documentary, or is it a documentary or is it like a movie?
It's more of I guess it isn't I think they just came out with a documentary, but the Monsters one is more of like cinematic, like
Is it
not
like the Ted Bundy one they made like a few years ago?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember watching that. It was with Zac Efron.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like creepy, but like interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say for me, most interesting thing I've seen this week or just recently was just I don't know, probably just like Drake May's first start with the Patriots. Probably kind of boring answer, but first time seeing him play like live, so it's pretty cool, and hopefully he can help the team in the future and obviously this season for a little bit as well.
Yeah. True.
Now, speaking of sports teams, if you could play a game with any professional sports team in the world, who would you pick?
I think that going back to volleyball, I'd probably say maybe like beach volleyball in the Olympics or something like that. Like that'd be really fun. It's a sport that like I played volleyball, but I never got into like the beach part of it. And I think
Yeah,
it's super cool to like get to like play in the sands. Like that's fun.
yeah. I would say for me, Bruins, it would be cool to be on an NHL team for like a week because that looks like a ton of fun. I would say like college sport, like something unique, like maybe like the Hawaii tennis team, just so I can be in Hawaii for like a week. And I don't know, I've never played tennis before, but I feel like that would be a cool sport to learn. So something like that.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Now, which player on the Towson women's lacrosse team has the best off the field style besides yourself, obviously?
I'm gonna have to shout out my roommate, Hallie Chorus. She always looks put together and has great style. So yeah.
Now, last non-lacrosse question is, what is one item on your bucket list that you hope to accomplish one day?
I guess it's kind of basic, but like skydiving, I just feel like everyone who's done it is always like, you have to do it. Like it's a once a lifetime experience. So I feel like that's definitely like on the top of my bucket list one day. I'd probably be really scared, but like I'd probably feel good after it. So
Yeah. I could not do that. I'm too scared to even go on the plane, so let alone jump off of it. So, not for me. But I would say for me, like travel different spots. Like I'd love to visit like Hawaii, like different parts of the West Coast. I think that would be cool to just explore that and see what that's like.
yeah, I'd love to go to Europe. That'd be really cool.
Now, getting back to some of the cross questions now. First one is what should be done to help grow women's lacrosse from your perspective?
I think that what's being done on social media right now is really good. Just like utilizing platforms like Instagram, TikTok, not even to like the hype videos and stuff are really cool, but also like I love the questions like getting to know other athletes like that the teams do, just like random things like what's your Starbucks order, stuff like that. Like it's just so fun to watch and I think it just like generates like a bigger fan base for women's lacrosse, just like people getting to scroll and watch and like learn the personalities of like the people who are playing the sport, I think has been like really good thing in growing the game and I think just like growing the fan base. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, one last question I want to ask you, Shannon, is do you have any shout outs you want to give to your teammates, family members, and friends? And who should we have on the podcast next?
Obviously, shout outs to like my family. They're my biggest supporters and everyone on my team. They're great people. I love my team here and just like all like my club team, Wantagh and everything, like who just made me the player I am today. Definitely like everything. I give them a huge shout out. And then I feel like someone good to have on the podcast next would be Osha Levy because she's a junior now, and she's from Australia. She just played for the U20s in Hong Kong for Team Australia, which was really cool. And I think she'd have a lot to talk about with all of that experience and everything.
Yeah. Well, Shannon, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time. I think you're a great player and even better person. I just want to let you know that. And obviously, wishing you all the best for the upcoming season. I know you're going to do great.
Thank you so much. It was so nice being here.